An alleged arsonist is behind bars today after setting a fire in South San Angelo over this past weekend. Two of Texas' most wanted fugitives have been recaptured, and is an intense drought in store for the San Angelo area. All this plus Sarah Ross is here with some interesting facts about Fort Concho. I'm Yantis Green, and this is Live. But first, during heartbreaking times of loss, don't let funeral homes overcharge you to honor your loved ones. Two locally owned funeral homes, Robert Massey and Harper Funeral Homes, offer obituaries on San Angelo Live. Other media sites, like that old newspaper, could charge you $200, $300, or even $400 for an obit. Here at San Angelo Live, it is a low price of $30 every time. Plus, what happens when you're done with the paper? Likely it goes in the trash. At San Angelo Live, obits last forever. They're always online at the click of a button. So make sure when you're thinking of who to call to remember those who support local businesses. That's Robert Massey Funeral Home and Harper Funeral Home. Give them a call today. Kicking off local news with an arrest of an alleged arsonist over the weekend. According to court documents, Ignacio Gonzalez was arrested for arson after allegedly setting fire to his ex-girlfriend's apartment at Rio Villas Apartments Complex. That's over on Ben Flicklin Road. The victim learned that Gonzalez was at her apartment without her permission, and when she came home, she opened her door and a cloud of smoke emerged. Fire investigator Chris Christian said that was a man-made fire and it was not an accident. Gonzalez refused to comment to authorities and was arrested and is currently being held on that arson charge at $50,000 bond. And two of Texas' most wanted criminals were caught in North Texas so far this month. Top 10 most wanted fugitive, 25-year-old Marlon Ray Washington, was wanted for evading arrest and child sexual assault charges since June 22 in Dallas, Texas. Also, top 10 most wanted sex offender, 36-year-old Jerry Allen Neese, was captured as well. He's been wanted since October of 2021 after failing to register as a sex offender for an indecency conviction. Neese was captured in Bowie, Texas. And remember, Texas Crime Stoppers offers cash rewards, and never attempt to catch any of those criminals on your own because they are considered armed and dangerous. And if you met up with some of your Catholic friends yesterday, you probably noticed the ashes on their foreheads. Yesterday was Ash Wednesday and the start of the Lenten season. Lent is a religious observance commemorating the 40 days that Jesus spent fasting in the desert, and also marks the 40-day period leading up to the Easter season. Traditionally, observers abstain from things like sweets or alcohol or social media for that 40-day period, all this in preparation for the Easter celebration. And speaking of fasting, a lake in the San Angelo area has been fasting from rainfall. O.C. Fisher Reservoir has been, going dry, and all signs point to the drought intensifying this year. O.C. Fisher is fed by the North Concho River, which has been dry for several months. It looks like it will be a very dry year, and without help from spring rains, O.C. Fisher is bound to run dry again this year, and that will show an intensification of the drought conditions for San Angelo. O.C. Fisher running dry is a concern for the city. It's not. It is only one of several water sources for the city of San Angelo. Those others include Twin Buttes and O.H. Ivy, E.V. Spence and Lake Nasworthy, and of course the underground Hickory Aquifer. According to the city's website, San Angelo has about 52 months of water supply left, and that's if it doesn't rain a drop. When we come back, Ryan Chadrick will update you on the basketball playoffs, high school basketball, including the very best and Erie County girls teams in the regional tournament. And we have an interview with Sarah Ross from Fort Concho.
Hey folks, Todd Price from Jim Bass Ford. Have you noticed the last couple of years cars and trucks have been overpriced? Well, not anymore. At Jim Bass, we have a slew of F-150s priced around $4,000 off MSRP. Now, my Uncle Perk used to tell me, Todd, opportunities are never lost. Somebody takes the ones you miss. Don't y'all miss this one. Jim Bass Ford, Houston Hart Harden Road, or 24/7 at bassbunch.com.
The area round of the boys basketball playoffs begin tonight. The number 4 Erie County Hornets take on Sanderson and Fort Stockton at 6 p.m. I will be there for all the action, so tune in to sanangelolive.com for all the details and highlights from this matchup. Elsewhere in West Texas, the Cristobal Cougars battle Wink in Garden City tonight at 6 p.m. The Cougars have a tough matchup on their hands but are capable of pulling out a victory. Also, Sterling City plays their playoff matchup against New Home in La Mesa tonight at 6. The Concho Valley still has 2 girls basketball teams alive in the playoffs. Erie County's Lady Hornets and Very Best Lady Falcons made it to the regional tournament in Snyder this weekend. And although the Central Lady Cat season is over, several members earned all-district honors. Nevia Harn earned Co-Offensive Player of the Year, Jules Perez earned Defensive Player of the Year, and head coach Arsenio Jeter was named Coach of the Year. Alyssa Barron was named to the first team, Sydney Moore, Anna Wearsawicki, and Alexis Long were named to the second team, and McKenna McMillan was named honorable mention. Congratulations, ladies. Be sure to tune in at 4 p.m. on Friday to our Cover 1 Hoop Show. We will have interviews from around the Concho Valley, results from Thursday's games, and a preview and our predictions for this weekend's playoff matchups.
And welcome back. Joining me now is Sarah Ross with Fort Concho. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I think this is your first time here.
It is very much so my first.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
And normally we have Bob Luthart, and I miss him a little bit, but I'm glad you're here.
Well, I'm glad to be here myself. It's somewhere new.
Great.
I like y'all's office, by the way.
I appreciate that. We have a good little enterprise going here. And part of what we do is get out the word for great stuff like the things going on at Fort Concho.
Yeah.
So what's going on this weekend?
So let me fill you in with February 26th, which is this coming Sunday.
Sunday, okay.
We're doing Buffalo Soldier Heritage Day.
All right.
Yearly tradition, right? We partner with the NAACP and we host talks that specifically cover African Americans in the Army related to San Angelo in the 19th century. And it's like about a 2-hour talk, so it'll be from 2 p.m. to about 4 p.m.
Okay.
And this year, we're going to be greeted by Woody and Charles from Arizona.
Ah.
And if you haven't met them yet, you'll see them at Christmas at Old Fort Concho every once in a while. They have a full setup. Woody knows everything about weaponry in the 19th century.
Okay.
And Charles is a personality in of himself. And they're going to be one of them speaking. And the other is Dr. John Langelier, who is also at Angelo State tonight.
Okay.
He's one of the leading historians on Buffalo Soldiers.
All right.
He'll be there, and he actually wrote this really random book on 19th century bands. And it's this like really specific history that's so useful to my field, but many people don't know about it. But everyone knows him for his Buffalo Soldier work. And he's like been the consult for National Park Service and everything else. So having him here is a pretty big deal.
That is amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
And you obviously have other things that you do at Fort Concho. We were talking about this tea thing.
Oh my goodness. So let me tell you about what's coming up. So March 14th and 16th at 2 p.m.
Okay.
I was thinking about this, and I realized we needed to host programs that made people feel like they're having an experience.
Okay.
And so I decided to do it through an afternoon tea.
All right.
It was usually a casual gathering in the 19th century where women and men, and sometimes like the ladies would get together, sometimes as a family getting together, they'd all come together and have tea. And so I'm doing an afternoon tea, so March 14th and March 16th at 2 p.m. And the idea is it'll be $3 a ticket and it'll cover everything. We'll play parlor games, learn about how to host a 19th century tea. There will be an entire cast of servants present, along with the lady of the house.
Amazing. And where does this take place on the fort?
So if you go to Fort, it's Officer Quarters 1, which is that first house on East Avenue D.
Okay, right there on the corner.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that, and let's see. Fort Concho is there's always something to do at our premier national historic landmark. What else you got going on out there?
Well, we have spring break coming up.
Okay, it is that time of year.
And excitingly, we'll be back to hosting tours again. And so people who come out for self-guided tours or maybe want a more in-depth history, it's about an hour and a half long. We'll have all our times posted on our website.
Okay.
I know there's the afternoon one at 2 p.m.
Okay.
And it'll allow people to go through the different exhibits. We have our exhibits set up so they can see what a 19th century life would have looked like for soldiers.
Okay.
So you'd see the officers versus the enlisted men. You'd see a headquarters all set up, the hospital and all of that.
All right.
And the entire time, I'll be on the front porch of either Barracks 1 or OQ 9, which is the last building on that same row.
Okay. All right.
And I'm going to have different interpretive tables. One day it's going to be on cavalry, one day infantry, one day officer wives, and then I'm thinking I may do a sneak peek into a future interpretation about Masons.
Okay. Well, that was that's a lot to keep up with. So you've got this all on your website.
Yes. You should always check out fortconcho.com or check out our Facebook, which is at Fort Concho National Historic Landmark.
All right, so that's how they keep up with you. The afternoon tea thing is just it's fascinating to me. I've never participated in one of those.
It's okay. So I don't know if you've ever gone to like a reenactment or something like that, where everyone's just in the zone speaking differently and all of that.
Okay.
We're going to go with like a quasi version of it. So
All right.
I have an 1870s walking dress. I'll walk around all hoity-toity and everything. And the idea is you have these like great cucumber sandwiches. You're drinking tea. Tea's supposed to take like 30 minutes.
Okay.
19th century like gatherings were meant to take hours. Like dinner was 2 hours long. And so the idea is it'll take only an hour, granted. There's parlor games where they would come together and they would make up games to get to know each other in the room.
Okay, yeah.
And so it's going to be a small group. I only have 20 tickets available, so it's a small group of us getting together, getting to know each other, and learning the history together.
Well, and that is the kind of thing that occurred back then because there were no phones, no internet, no TVs, no distractions of those kinds. So you actually had to be human beings, people talking to people.
I'll tell you what, that's exactly right. They all wrote it down, too. Luckily, that's how we know so much about Fort Concho. So, between the two.
Well, it's such a gem to have here, and I'm glad you're here helping us appreciate what the history we have.
I think it's okay. So I grew up in South Texas, and I always knew about the cattle trail because I grew up right where the cattle trail started in George West. And then I got out to San Angelo, and I drove past this huge space, and it was just this random piece of land in the middle of San Angelo, right next to downtown. Had no idea what I just drove past. And here I am years later, hyped up to talk about the history of that exact location, which is Fort Concho.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I've made it my life mission of sorts to learn everything there is about 19th century military history now. And it's interesting because we're the origin story of San Angelo.
Yes.
And so often I'll be talking to people and they're not yet aware of how every decision made at Fort Concho still has consequences of how the world, our little world is run now.
That's correct. And the little village that sprang up across from the fort was sort of a supply and entertainment center for the folks stationed there. So the history is there, and it's really fascinating how San Angelo and the fort grew up together.
Do you want a random history fact?
I do. Give me a random.
So the two lawyers who owned the property Fort Concho was on, they rented the land to the federal government. The federal government is what they put Fort Concho on.
Okay.
Well, 1889, it shut down. The lawyers owned that land again. There's this one plot that's not included, but most of it was.
All right.
And their first idea was to make it a gated community because everything was already there. They were ready to go. They had all the housing. They could put in the businesses. They would have a hospital on site. And they later changed their mind and sold it to the town. And so that's how Fort Concho became part of the community so well, was because the lawyers decided to sell it.
Lawyers and land people, imagine that, wanting to develop something. That's great.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I was sitting there and someone came up to me at a program and they're like, who owned the land Fort Concho's on? I was like, Native Americans? And then I learned about the Mexican-American War. The soldiers got a pension in the form of land.
Oh,
well,
okay.
this was Comanche territory, and so moving out here wasn't prime in the 50s. And so lawyers bought it up. And when the Army settled it, the lawyers had a lot more money suddenly.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
That is something. The history of this part of the world is just fascinating. It really is. So there's lots to go see.
Yeah.
And Sarah, I am very delighted that you are here. Will you come back and see us?
You know what? I may just do that.
Okay. Well, we'll keep a door open for you.
Thank you.
All right. Sarah Ross, Fort Concho, lots of stuff going on. And, of course, the Buffalo Soldier event on Sunday.
On Sunday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. I should state, it is in the commissary. I didn't even tell y'all this. It's in the commissary. So if you're going down Henry O. Flipper, it's over there on the right.
Okay. So it's back there sort of in the back away from Oak Street.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. And that is our news and weather for today. And stick with us. We'll be back for another edition tomorrow. Until then, for San Angelo Live, I'm Yantis Green.